welcome to New Game Plus. I'm Tim. I'm joined by Donald. How are you?
It's good to be back, Tim. After our time in Japan and covering the Tokyo Game Show, it's good to be back in this warm, humble studio making video game television programming.
Yes, and exciting news then now that you're back from Japanland. News from Japanland. New Nintendo console coming.
Yes, we found out about the Nintendo Switch, and surprise, surprise, it is a hybrid home-held and portable console.
Yes, somebody
Also
called
home.
that.
Yes, somebody did, actually. Tim, what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch?
The most promising feature that I see is that NVIDIA is handling all the APIs. They've got a new Tegra 2 custom chip that's going into the device itself. Seems like there's rumors there's going to be another chip inside the docking itself for the upscaling, but not necessarily rendering as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that
a lot of
works.
these rumors are floating around, and Nintendo has been very mum on all the details of what everything will do exactly. We'll find out in a presentation in early January. They've just
Yes.
announced that. But
We haven't seen too many games at the moment, which is why I'm harping on this sort of stuff. I really want to see what games are coming out with the console before I go out and
it's a
pre-order
Nintendo
straight away.
console. You know you're going to get a new Mario game, a new Zelda game, a new Smash Brothers game, a new Fire Emblem game, hopefully a new Shin Megami Tensei game. Sorry, Tokyo Mirage Sessions game.
Is it going to be new games, or is it going to be modified Wii U versions? Because from the trailer, it looked like a modified Mario Kart 8, and not necessarily new
They're all just
games.
modified versions of each other. But you know what?
That's true.
It's the Nintendo blanket. We're all comforted by it. Like, we're happy if we just get more of these titles. I just want a new 3D Mario. Although, if the rumors do hold true of a new Beyond Good and Evil being a Switch exclusive, then I am on board.
Yes, that will
Thank you
sell
very
consoles.
much. But the promise, though, of having this thing that you can jack into a TV, then jack out and carry on the train, like, I like that idea. I was sold by the trailer.
Well, let's stop the not the Wii U hype, the Switch hype for now, and go into our
Let's
first
switch
segment.
on to something else, shall we?
Well, I know in EDF we're used to seeing these wonderful Japanese landscapes that we then destroy with rocket launchers, but EDF 5 is set in a Western setting, and I was very lucky to play it, and it's an EDF game. So everybody knows my love affair with the series. Kill giant ants, kill giant robots, kill giant whatever. It doesn't matter. You just kill things, right? In this, they've decided to take that and twist it a little bit. It's actually set a little bit before the previous game in the series, but it is set in a different country. So the idea is, of course, they must be playing into the whole idea of, you know, it's a different enemy, therefore we've got a different set of weaponry, blah, blah, blah. But so far, we've only seen Wing Diver and Ranger announced. Both of them play exactly as you'd expect, though there is the addition of like a toggle button. So the toggle button, for example, for the Ranger makes you sprint. Toggle button for the Wing Diver makes you like dash, like air dash forward and stuff. So it adds that little bit of extra mobility option, which the game needed. Like, as much as I love diagonal rolling, as much as the next guy, it does get a little bit tedious. New enemies, though. We've seen the frogs, the giant frogs that fight you, and they are difficult only because you're not used to enemies kind of reacting to you. Like, these ones will jump away, they'll jump back, they'll roll, they'll try and avoid your fire, whereas robots usually just stand there in the one spot and cop whatever you're throwing at them. And the other one as well is we've seen the new types of ships that come out. They're like a more gold pattern, so that it is a different set of enemies for a different environment. They're leaning hard into that 50s aesthetic. Really, really works, and I'm hoping to see, when it comes out in 2017, just how good it is.
Well, it's a good thing that another Gran Turismo game is coming out, because that means Polyphony are not out of a job.
Not quite yet. Whereas at Tokyo Game Show, we got a chance to play with Gran Turismo Sport. Not quite a prologue, but not quite a full version, but the first time that GT has appeared on the current generation of consoles.
And let me tell you, it is quite the looker. There's no surprises. It's Polyphony Digital. They are the perfectionists when it comes to aesthetics and just generally just with cars that you can't even count the polygons. You can't even count that high.
But it does mean that the parts where they've had to take shortcuts just due to developmental reasons, so like the game is silky smooth at 60 frames a second, but there are parts where like the reflections of the bonnet are still kind of juggly, which is understandable, but it sort of breaks the mood, really.
Yeah, there is a little bit of pop-in and a bit of texture problems with the reflections, and also the fact that due to time constraints, they have happened to pull a Forza Motorsport 5 and not included any dynamic weather.
No, you can set the weather, and also that should be mentioned that in the demo that we played, there wasn't any vehicle damaging modeling either. However, that is set to be included in the final version of GT Sport.
And while all the cars handled completely fine, I ran with no assist because I'm badass like that. The cars still have a bit of problem with hit detection, and it is a problem with a lot of Gran Turismo games ever since the first, where everything just feels like bumper cars.
What would be more interesting, though, is everything outside of the driving itself. They're trying to implement esports into this. There's, of course, the prospect of PlayStation VR, and Gran Turismo is a game that very much should be played in VR just to have that true driving experience.
Exactly, but whether you're running on the Nürburgring or anything like that, Gran Turismo Sport is still looking pretty promising. Hopefully we can see some more magic down the line.
Now, Demi, for a long time, I have been a staunch detractor, a conscientious objector to virtual reality. You've gone and played Fallout 4 in VR. Go, sell me on it.
Well, I understand why, because Fallout's like playing games VR is like being drunk. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but everyone else thinks you look like a dickhead.
Yeah.
But I played Fallout 4 VR today, and it is so much fun, except for one minor detail.
Right, and let me guess. I'm going to crystal ball it. That would be motion.
Yeah, the movement. Look, the actual display of it's great. It's not quite photorealistic graphics, but that was okay. When I looked around, I didn't get disoriented at any point.
Which has been one of the hard things with VR.
That was going to be a big concern of what would make or break it. Yeah. At one point, I was able to, with a pistol, close one eye, look down my gun and shoot a ghoul in the head, and that was more fun than it should be. It was really good. But what happened when you get into very close combat, the movement is it's like playing XCOM, where you pick a spot and you move to it.
Set a waypoint almost.
Yeah, and so you've got one controller and I ended up click to move around, but it does make close-in battles very difficult. Yeah. So melee okay, but gun battles up close.
Because you lack that natural precision. You're obviously aiming to fire, but then you've got to somehow figure out your motion toggle at the same time.
Yeah, and you couldn't, when I'm playing, I back away a bit while shooting as things are coming to me, and it's really difficult to do. There's probably another control scheme in there that or there may
can
be.
Let you do it, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully there is, because it would have been nice to move around with the other thumbstick. But I tell you what, it was a lot of fun standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down. Felt like I was the end of a cliff looking down. It was great. Really loved it. And shooting things like this, I could do it all day.
Now you can scrap in first person.
Yeah, I didn't scrap. I've got to go back in.
So Don, it's that time of the year again. Let's talk about rhythm games.
Yes, and specifically Rhythm Paradise, which is one of the best rhythm game franchises. It's just so charming with its musical beats. And now we've got this 3DS version, Rhythm Paradise Megamix.
Which is basically a kind of a greatest hits of the series. So you have games from the GBA game, the DS game, and the Wii game, and a slew of whole new mini games for this version.
Now, if you're not familiar with Rhythm Paradise or Rhythm Heaven, if you know it that way, it's essentially a bunch of mini games that are based around rhythm and throw little cartoonish scenarios around them. So you're playing a karate man to the beat, or you're shooting ghosts with a bow and arrow to the beat, or you're performing a wrestling interview to the beat.
And it's amazing. It's still just charming and wonderful.
Yes, and this is essentially, as you said, is the greatest hits collection. So you see a lot of the minigames from the GameCube and all those versions. If you've played the DS or the Wii version, it's very nostalgic as you reminisce over these games that you would have played obsessively back then. And even the Game Boy Advance version, it's almost new if you didn't dive deep into that. But there's also the new games out there.
Yeah, and they're like, it's just, you get like a samurai mini game now, you get a sumo mini game as well, which is all just weird. Like, even still, they like these brand new games, they still hold up, which is really, really cool.
You can definitely see the progression and what the ideas that are percolated in their head between the Game Boy Advance version and here. But this version isn't without its flaws.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the fact that there's a ton of story. It's just like, I just want to play the rhythm game. Why do I have to dig through the story?
Yeah, it throws you off beat, and the pacing is really weird as well, because it starts off incredibly easy, which is weird for a game that sort of aims at hardcore Rhythm Paradise fans. And then it's on to, like, say, the second and third, after the first set of credits, where you get
where the game starts for real.
Yeah, we get the remix levels where they mash up 3 or 4 different mini games. It's quite a good experience.
But despite that though, like, I think this is obviously a game for Rhythm Paradise fans. Like me, I love it, you love it.
Yeah.
Like, there's not really much more to say about that if you're a fan of the series, I suppose. But
although, if you just like rhythm games or cartoony fun in general, I'd thoroughly recommend this game on that level as well.
With the newly announced Nintendo Switch lurking on the horizon, you might be inclined to think the Wii U has been left behind in delivering some of Nintendo's biggest and best gaming experiences. After hands-on at EB Expo early this month though, I'd argue there's still plenty of life left to deliver some of Nintendo's best in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. In Sydney I had the chance to play 2 demos. One exploration, where we had the freedom to suss out how the game's movement, combat, and supporting systems felt, and one more directed demo, where we had the curtain pulled back to reveal what felt like the opening of the full game releasing next year. To begin, it needs to be said, this is a gorgeous game that I think will age beautifully. With an anime-esque art style that doesn't sacrifice details, it blends visual ideas from Wind Waker and Skyward Sword and even some of the 3DS remakes to create a world that feels truly alive and fun to explore. The exploration demo dropped us in lush fields and set us free to make our own fun in seeing what the locale had to offer. Small enemy outposts were sprinkled around the area and let us come to terms with the combat system that felt fun and responsive in action. Materials and ingredients could be found in little nooks and crannies that let us mess around with cooking different concoctions from all sorts of bizarre combinations. Feeling more like an action game than Zelda games of late, gameplay felt more refreshing than routine, while still feeling familiar enough to put series diehards at ease. Animation during actions like combat and cooking were incredibly smooth and expressive, and this held up during the cutscenes that opened the second demo we were able to play. Waking from a slumber to a distant voice, this scenario saw Link make his way through the Shrine of Resurrection to acquire the Sheikah Slate. This item is used to guide him, and by extension the player, out to see Hyrule's Great Plateau for the first time, in a sequence that rivals the sense of scale and wonder from Studio Ghibli projects like Princess Mononoke and Ni no Kuni. In exploring and interacting with the world in Breath of the Wild, you can feel the influence and, more importantly, a sense of inspiration drawn from much earlier Zelda titles on the original Nintendo and Super Nintendo systems that make this feel like a breath of fresh air while still instilling a sense of nostalgia in players that have stuck with the series since its debut. While there were a few rough edges in the demo's visuals with regard to blurry textures sometimes, a few pop-ins and a bit of lag, the charming character animations and the consistent world detail more than made up for what will be a much tighter package come release in 2017. While we don't know how the game will fare on the upcoming Nintendo Switch, it's safe to say that if you're wanting to get the game on a more wallet-friendly system, or just keen on the idea of using your Wii U more, you'll find what you're looking for in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Nintendo Switch.
Listen to me. When the time comes, you gotta run and don't look back. This is over.
Oh, poor Red Dead Redemption. At the start of the week, when it ramped up the hype machine, everyone was so excited about a red image with the Rockstar logo on it. But then Nintendo Switch had to absolutely steal its limelight, and then all we got was this sort of minute-long trailer, this sort of, it's almost an atmospheric piece for what to expect from this sequel.
Yes, it was a teaser of a teaser for a teaser. And
It's a pretty teaser though, it must be said.
You're just expecting a bit more content out of the Rockstar people.
They
I don't know.
like to slow roll us though. There's always been sort of their MO.
Yeah, I personally, I'm looking forward to it because I've been watching Westworld recently.
That'll be
It's
very
a bit
interesting
of
context.
different, but yeah, I'll look forward to it. I wasn't a huge fan of the original game.
See, I really, really liked it eventually. Like, I had to sort of force myself to play through it. But the start of the game and the end of that game are memorable, as it's just the small moments of riding around. But, like everyone else, I thought the middle section when they went to Mexico was kind of superfluous. They didn't really develop the character or anything like that. So, wait a minute. I just realized we're all kind of Donald Trumping here, just wanting to get rid of the Mexico from Red Dead Redemption, aren't we? We're gonna build a wall around.
Yes.
Oh boy, let's not go down this logic path at all. Westworld, let's just use Westworld, shall we?
Now, Jamie, one of those underappreciated gems of last generation to me was Mafia 2.
Yep.
For all of its, the gameplay problems it had, for the stupid time progression thing that it did, it tried to tell a story that wasn't necessarily a direct sequel or even necessarily tied to its predecessor, which it sounds like is what they're trying to do with Mafia 3.
Right.
Which is set in like this 1960s.
Yeah, late America South in the late 60s.
Yes, so it sets itself up for a different kind of story. We've come from the Italians. Now we're dealing with the African Americans.
Yep. And that's kind of the thing. Like, I think, if anything, the story is the reason why you want to play this game. Because the game, let's just put it out here, the game is kind of your standard open world gameplay. It's repetitive. It's
buggy,
a little bit. So, look, if you're going to be playing this game, you want to play for the story and the kind of the things it does, because it's probably one of the most interesting depictions of, let's just say, one of the darkest times in history. A pretty dark time in history.
Yeah. So, and that is probably its strength. Is it that it seems to have a really good knack for demonstrating situations that happened in the 60s that perhaps shouldn't be put in a video game, but showing you how that would actually affect you in a video game. And I think you need to explain that further because that was very vague.
So basically, because you're playing as an African-American protagonist, there are shops you can't go into because they refuse to sell to colored people.
Yes.
There are also neighborhoods which you can go into, and if a white person happens to spot you, because it's a very waspy kind of neighborhood, they can call the police and basically say, yo, there's a colored man in the neighborhood.
Which to me is when I say fantastic depiction, I don't want to be put up there with Hitler or Trump, but to me it is a representation of that period that would be lacking in a lot of other games. No one else would even dare try that. You know
Exactly,
what I mean?
yeah.
And while it has those over-the-top moments of haha, I'm shooting up a Klan rally kind of thing, those less significant but still pretty important statements about that time like a fantastic thing about this
And it
game.
all ties into the story where, yeah, it's a little pulpy at times, but it's generally very well written. It's also just entertaining throughout the whole ride. Not to mention you have an amazing soundtrack of just the best cuts of that era. And it's a good time to pick music too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I guess that is one thing that the Mafia's always done well. Even the Playboy tie-ins were always done really well, like finding the covers and stuff. And I guess it offers you a glimpse into that world. Like, even the ones from Mafia 2, you know, you had the covers and it's like, wow, Playboy's changed a lot. Like, there's no silicon breasts and that kind of stuff.
There's no nudity mags. There's no nudity now.
Yeah, and even in this, it's like, there's like, you can read the articles. Like, to me, it really leans into what it's doing. It's trying to say, here is a moment in time that we want you to appreciate.
Yeah.
And when we say appreciate, just understand
Yeah.
where all these things come from. But is that enough to recommend people playing it?
That's the kind of the thing, though. Like, I think the story is amazing. I think the depiction of this particular time period is just really incredible, and it's probably something we're going to be talking about later on down the line. The problem is that I don't think personally the game is probably worth the slog in that regard, but yeah, it's kind of
It's no GTA where you've got that level of accessibility with online and stuff like that.
pretty much, yeah.
Yet another open world shooter in a sandbox, but this one's very racist.
Not racist, but it touches on race issues, which are kind of relevant today as well. And it's sort of interesting that it differentiates itself not by shiny graphics or its edgy satire from 2001 like Grand Theft Auto 5 tried to do, but actually has something to say of race relations around that period of time. And we're starting to get a few more games that are tackling this as well. It's also like Watch Dogs. It's not known whether that, because this game stars a black protagonist, but we still don't know whether he just happens to be black and doing standard open world stuff, or whether they're going to try and touch on particularly being a black American in 2016.
Let's be honest, Watch Dogs 2 will be like that old movie Hackers. It'll be the equivalent of that, and it'll be interesting to say the least.
Well, I think the game's already sort of set its tone in one of its trailers by blurring out a guy flipping the bird.
Well then, that's a good start.
Edgy,
Yes.
up to a corporate standard.
Yes. But of course, Mafia 3 is doing very well. People are enjoying it. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that management sort of sim running, like, not the cartel, the mob, and sort of managing your criminal enterprise. I think seeing more of that would have been cool. I haven't played the game yet, but I've only seen bits of it, so we'll see.
I must admit, like, none of the gameplay, like, and what Jamie has said, like, none of the gameplay appeals to me. I'm purely there for the articles.
Yes, yeah. So that is it for this week. We do have packs coming up.
Yes, we also have a pair of panels for you to be excited about and attend, please.
Yes, so please do check out the super fun, happy time Tokyo Game Show Hour.
That is 8 p.m. Friday in the Galar Theatre. And also, if you're around on Saturday night, come to Quiz Time event, the ultimate HD remaster Game of the Year 2017 edition, 10:30 p.m. Saturday night in the Drop Bear Theatre.
Until then, please visit our website, www.newgameplus.tv.
Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/NewGamePlusTV.
Follow Twitter and Instagram at NewGamePlusTV.
And subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitch. We are New Game Plus TV, one word, no spaces.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you, Tim.
We'll see you guys at PAX.